How's everybody doing this morning? Good, thanks. So thank you everybody for being here. I know that it's been a long week. It's very early, so we really appreciate that you are here to learn a little bit more of approval processes and Apex code. So the intention of this session is to bring some ideas to leverage what you are doing today with the standard approval processes using some cool features and cool tricks that Apex code has. So I am Andreina Mendoza. I'm a senior system business analyst in Red Hat. I have my two certifications, administrator and developer. I'm an industrial engineer, and also I have 8 years of experience with Salesforce, so I know the platform back and forth. And I bring today our friend Scott, that is one of our rockstar developers. So.
Hi everybody, I'm Scott Coleman. I'm a recovering .NET developer, 10 plus years working with Microsoft technologies, 2.5 years now on the platform, happy to be in the cloud, not looking back. So just to kind of touch on our agenda for today, we'll give you a brief overview of approval processes and maybe some of the pitfalls and shortcomings there that we're trying to fill the gap with this Apex code. And then we've got 2 use cases that come from our real business case that Andreina will take you through. We'll do a demo for each. We'll talk about the problem and the solution, and then we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. First off, why are approval processes important? Well, this one's sort of obvious, I guess. This is the standard way that Salesforce gives us to review and accept or reject records that are entered into the Salesforce system. But there are some challenges when you're building those processes. Salesforce themselves will tell you in their best practices documentation that this is one of those areas where before you start configuring, you're going to want to spend some time on design. Figure out what your steps are going to look like. Who are your approvers? What does the flow look like? Other areas of config, you can a lot of times just dive in, start hacking away until you have something that works. Approval processes, you'll find yourself kind of at a dead end sometimes if you do that because of some of the constraints. But while you're doing this design and figuring out what your flow looks like, this is also a time when you could identify features that approval processes are not providing that you might be able to fill with some Apex. So this is really about collaboration between admins and developers, taking the configuration as far as we can go to leverage the clicks not code benefit of the platform, and then filling in that gap with just a little bit of Apex code to add some flexibility and power. Now Andreina is going to take us through the first of our 2 use cases.
Awesome, thank you, Scott. So how many of you are administrators in this room? System administrators? Okay, awesome. And developers? Awesome. Non-administrator, no developers, just end users? Awesome, I have my boss here. Well, so I'm going to present the first use case to chaining 2 approval processes that are going to be for the same object. In this case, we are going to use opportunities. And the business problems that we were trying to solve in Red Hat was that our pre-sales engineer needs a way to have free software to present, to do a proof of concept to the bigger customers, right? So we needed to create an approval processes to allow them to have this opportunity and these products available when they go and build a cool solution for them. So our business flow is going to look something like this, right? Of course, the problem was very simple, right? For us, in Red Hat, we have a huge organization, so it's not as easy as it seems. We have first an approval process that is regional approval processes, right? And after this process is done, depending on certain criteria, we are going to have another approval process, right? So if this opportunity needs business unit approval, it's going to go to a second approval process. We are going to use some magic that Scott is going to show you later, okay? So, and of course, when the last approval process is approved, we are going to get our opportunity approved, and this engineer is going to be able to have this entitlement so they can use it, okay? So I'm going to, oops, sorry. So I'm going to do a quick demo, okay? Just get this. Okay. So to show this, we have already an opportunity, right? And this is an opportunity that somebody already entered in the system. We have some important, oh no, let me just, sorry guys. Let me just point to something out. So we have this opportunity, right? If you see it here, we have, it's going to be a proof of concept, okay? And we have three fields that are going to be key, so just keep an eye on it. We have the status, that is going to be the approval status, region, if you see it's going to be the North America region, and the product family, okay? That this is going to be triggering the second approval process to start. So if we see this is a regular record, this is an opportunity, it's going to be data center for our Cool Things Happen account, and they are going to need more than 1,000 of VMware installed, okay? So I'm the North America regional manager from North America. If you see it if I scroll down a little bit, you are going to see that we already passed for an approval process. We have 3 steps. So this record is in the last step of the first approval process. So Scott Coleman already approved it, Amy Clinton already, so Andreina is waiting for me to approve. So I'm ready, I review the opportunity, and I'm ready to approve it. So yes, seems right. I approve it. And if you notice now in our approval processes, in our approval history, how many are familiar with this approval history in the record? Okay, so perfect. So what approval history means is when in the step are in the approval process, okay? So see that without me submitting again the record or anybody doing anything, I'm again in an approval process. It's called, if you see it here in the step in here, you see that it's going to be business unit approval process. So now, how this magic happened, Scott will show.
All right, thanks, Andreina. First, I want to show you the approval process definitions that we have in the system for opportunity. You can see 5 approval processes. The first 4 are those regional processes that handle those regional requirements. Each region has different approvers, different flow, different requirements there. And then we have the global business unit approval that all of these eventually flow into. Let's see, I'm going to show you the NA approval process, just to point out a few key things. So those fields that Andreina pointed out, they're very key here. So the entry criteria is keyed on that status value. It's also looking for the record type and then the region. You can see the 3 steps that the record went through in the approval steps section. The important thing here, the thing that kicks off that Apex trigger that chains these things together, is the final approval action, the field update here, where we're setting the status to pending business unit approval. So now let me pop over to the code to show you how that's working. Andreina taught me how to use a Mac this morning, so you'll have to bear with me. Cool. So here's a trigger called chain POC approvals. It's on the opportunity object. It runs after update. At the top, we're defining the status value, the key value that we're looking for. This, just by way of best practices, this trigger is bulkified, so it can handle multiple records, though usually it'll just be 1 record in that collection because this will be triggered by an approval process field update on a single record. Going into that for loop, where we're looping through the collection, you can see that we are, here we're looking for a transition in status from any other value to that key value that we care about. And then now we're leveraging some of the Apex classes given to us by Salesforce, process submit request, which is a way to say that we want to submit something into an approval process, and then we associate the ID of the opportunity with that submit request, and then finally, we actually submit that for processing. So the stuff inside this, this inner if statement, those are things where Salesforce provides great documentation on these classes and gives some samples. I'll give you a link to that later. All right, and if you want to grab the code, it's published out there on GitHub. There's the URL, and you're looking for the chain POC approvals trigger. If you'd like to adapt this for your own use, go for it. Feel free to reach out to me. I can help you do that. Back to the URL. You'll see this URL again at the end of the presentation, too, if you miss it now. What else can you do? So this is really just a pattern. We're talking about opportunities, but this certainly isn't limited to just opportunities. Any record type, you can use this strategy. We've used a very simple example where we're chaining 2 approval processes for the same object type with a single record, but you can use this strategy across records or even across object types. Another thing that you can do is you can implement a child approval process that runs while the parent process waits. So if you have a very complex flow with subflows and it makes sense to you to segment them like that, you absolutely can. And you can use the Apex code to do the coordination back and forth between the processes. The question might be like, why would we do this? The example that we showed you, it didn't have that many steps, but in our real production approval process, we're approaching that 25-step limit. That's one reason why we wanted to break it out into multiple processes. And then also, there's a section of the approval flow that's common for the globe, and we didn't want to duplicate those steps across all 4 regional processes. So that's another motivation for using this pattern. All right, now Andrina is going to take us through the second use case.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So not difficult at all, right? It's very simple. So it's just, and that code can be used to leverage our approval process. It's not difficult, so don't be afraid to use it. So we have our second use case. We have our, we call it Salesforce content approval processes. But what we are going to show here is, or what we are going to present to you is how can we submit the approval record to the approval processes using Apex code and Visualforce. And after doing some actions when the final approvals happen, using a trigger, okay? So let's just ahead. So our business need in this case was our technical engineers doesn't have access to content in our organization. So they need to be able to publish technical content to our partners. In this case, global marketing is the user that have the ability to do this at the moment. So so our solution, our flow in this case was we needed to have like a stage object, right, that we will use for our technical engineers to upload documents. When they are done with the saving or attaching the document in that stage object, the content is going to be created. The contributed content, we call it contributed content, the stage object. The attachment in that record is going to appear, and also we are going to submit for approval. So the 3 things are going to happen just for him clicking a button. After, global marketing is going to receive a notification and say, you need to publish, you need to approve this record, you need to approve this document before all our partners in Red Hat can have this document available. So let's show a little demo. Awesome. Okay, so imagine that I am a super cool technical engineer, and I want to add something to our partner ecosystem, right? I want to enter a document. So I'm going to put here This is going to be a cloud document, Red Hat Cloud. That is one of our cool products that Red Hat use. So I'm going to add the title, right? I'm going to say that this is from 2013. It's a little old, but not that much. We are going to have, he is going to have access to put where he wants to present this to the partner, right? Let's say that it's in training. Also, we have some categories. He can see that it's going to be demo script. He can even put some description in here. And the expiration date that we use for other reasons. It's not relevant for this demo. So also we have in our org, this is a developer org, but in our org, he can even pick the library. Okay, is anybody here not familiar with content? Everybody knows what content is? You don't know? Content management is a feature that Salesforce provides for free. When people can contribute content, and it's very easy to use. We are going to see it in a minute. I have, he has everything. Of course, he needs to provide a document that he wants to publish. He's going to upload it. He's going to say, thank you for the contribution, okay? So I'm now pretending that to be one of our marketing users. She received a notification in her clock, in her mobile and everything, and she's going to enter into Salesforce. I'm going to see this record that we just created. So if you can see, this is a regular record, okay? It's just called contributor content. Is all the information that our engineer entered, right? The title, the description. So as a marketing person, you know, I would say, yeah, this is not a technical training. Let's just put it that it's a getting started, right? I change the category. I can do, you know, all the things that a marketing user will do. I can even check the attachment or change the attachment. I can, for example, put another attachment in here and take this one out. And after that is happening, this is ready. Seems very good document. Let's just put some encouragement here. Let's just approve it. And when this happens, you can see that the approval process ends. Okay, so this is going to take a while. This is probably sometimes content has 2-3 minutes of delay. So let me just see really. Oh, it's there. So this is content for the person that that are not familiar with content. We have available all the libraries, and you can, this is pretty cool. You can do a lot of things with this document now, and our partners use it extensively. So you can download it, subscribe, edit, you can add another version and everything. So we have now published our content, and we didn't do anything, right? It's just the magic behind that Scott is going to show. Thank you.
All right. Mm-hmm. So first, let's look at the approval process. This approval process is defined against a custom object that serves, basically as like a staging record for the actual content. So contributed content. The approval process here is just really straightforward. It's basically going to allow anyone that's a member of the technical content queue to approve that record. And again, the key thing here is a final approval action that's changing the status on the record to approved. That's what we're going to look for in our trigger. So let me jump over to the code. So on the front end of that, you saw our technical engineer submitting the content that they'd like to be reviewed and potentially published into content. So that was a Visualforce page. This is the controller behind that Visualforce page. A lot of this code is just sort of the logistics of running the page. I'm not going to get into that. Where it gets interesting is down here, where we're actually looking for the status transition. Sorry, where we're actually grabbing the attachment, and we're creating the attachment record that's associated with the contributed content record. And then we're going to see a code here that looks a lot like the code that was in the first trigger, which is some Apex code that's using those libraries provided by Salesforce to submit this contributed content record into approval. One extra thing we're doing here is we're setting some comments there. This is some text that when you're submitting in an automated way like this text ends up in the approval history related list. And the next thing is that we're calling the process method to submit that for approval. So after that point, it's now pending approval by someone on the marketing team that's in charge of making sure that the content going out is appropriate. We're doing something a little extra here that might be something you would want to do in that original trigger as well. We're actually examining the result of that attempt to submit this for approval. And if it's successful, we're displaying a success message on the page. And if it fails, we're showing a failure message. That could happen if you had a problem with your entry criteria, some scenario that you hadn't accounted for in your approval process. And then on the back side, so you saw Andrina as someone in marketing in charge of content review and approve the document. When she did that final approval, there was a status change on the contributed content record. This trigger, publish contributed content, is responsible for looking for that status transition. So here we're checking for a change from anything else to approved. And once we see that, we know that this is something that needs to be published. So we go and we get the attachment, we add that into a map. Again, this code is bulkified. Then we loop through, usually there'll just be one record. We come in, and we actually do the record creation here. So this is a way using Apex code that you can kick off record creation from an approval process using Apex. And then we insert that record. And then there's that slight latency, and then it's published into content for all to see. Again, here's the URL where we've published these code snippets. And for this use case, you'll be looking for the controller class, content and technical contributions, and then the trigger that on the back end actually publishes that content. I'll show you that URL again here in a minute. So what else can you do with this strategy? This is a slightly different pattern. With this strategy, you could use a custom object as a proxy for approval on a standard object. Let's say the standard object does not support approval processes out of the box. So this is a way that you can use Apex to sort of orchestrate that approval and record the final result back on the original record, or even create the record. We've had a requirement where the business wanted to avoid locking, for whatever reason, avoid locking the record while it's undergoing approval. This strategy could also be used for that with a proxy object in front or a staging record. This is obviously applicable, this pattern, across many different object types. So it doesn't have to be content. If you don't use content or aren't familiar with it, no big deal. You can definitely adapt this code to work with your objects. And then, like I said before, this is a way to do record creation as a result of an approval process. This last bullet is an interesting one. So in some of our requirements, there's a need to sort of do a criteria-based search to find the records that need to be updated as the result of the approval process. And with all the power of Apex, you can definitely do that. You can write your code to locate those records and update them, even if there's not an explicit relationship between that record and your record undergoing approval. All right, so here are some resources. If you have any, if you want to look into these patterns more, there's the Salesforce documentation, processing with Apex. That's all about using those classes that they provided with some samples. And then the approval class, this is documentation for those classes, all the way down to the method and property level. The code samples that we've shown you, if you'd like to grab those, they're published out there at GitHub. We're both available on Twitter if you want to reach out to us. And then there's always the chatter feed for the session. So pretty soon after the session, I'll make sure that the slide deck is shared and posted out there to the chatter feed. But definitely would love to help someone that's trying to adapt this code to their particular requirement.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So if anybody have any questions?
Any
Questions?
There's some microphones here in the middle if you have a question, or if you shout it out, I'll repeat it. All right, great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.